G'day guys, Ryan here, your Chief Espresso Officer, and we're going to talk about cupping score or quality score today. It's amazing because when we asked the public what is a quality score, it really shook us to understand that not many people understand what a quality score is and how it relates to your cup of coffee. So today we're going to look at this little number here, what it means, why we use it, and why you should start using it whenever you're looking to buy coffee from anywhere around the world. So, what exactly is a cupping score or a quality score? Well, to put it simply, it's a number that defines where this coffee sits in conjunction with all of the other coffees around the world. So, in order to understand this better, let's look at the graph. Along the bottom, we have quality going from awful to the best. Amazing, super high quality. And then up is a 0 to 100. But the scale isn't linear. It's actually an exponential scale, which means it's a lot harder to achieve those higher numbers. And the higher you go up, it makes it even more increasingly difficult to get than it is to get the lower numbers. So for instance, to get from a 50 to a 55, much easier than it is even to get from an 80 to an 81. So what I think one of the most important miseducations that have been around coffee is that not all coffee is the same. So we've been marketed to for ages that coffee should be cheap, cheap, cheap. It tastes horrible, bitter, burnt, like all the worst things, like they've stuffed it in the soil and then you shove it in your mouth and you just get your caffeine kick and that's it. That's all wrong. Yes, there certainly is that coffee. That is the low end of the quality score. So what we want to understand is that there's essentially 5 bands of coffee, starting with the off-grade coffee, which is undrinkable coffee. It's really low quality. It's got so many insect damaged defects per 300 gram. It's basically not drinkable anymore. Then up from that, you have your standard grade, which is used locally, so often that's not really export. When you get to exchange grade, then that starts getting exported out. You have your premium, and then you have your specialty coffee. Now, specialty coffee is a buzzword in the industry. We use it, and often case, it's not used in the right sense, because specialty grade coffee is only coffee that ranks 80 or higher on that quality score scale. And remember, I said it's much harder to get from 70 to 80 than it is to get from 60 to 70. 80 is the lowest possible score for specialty coffee. And as you can see here, 89 means it's not quite 90, but it's extremely high quality. So why do we use a quality score? Well, because it's all about transparency. And it should always be about transparency because that number directly relates to the amazing flavors that you should find in your coffee. The more amazing the coffee is, the higher that will go up. And it's also for pricing. The higher the quality score, the more the farmer can ask a higher price for that particular coffee. Now, we use it in the industry when we're roasting because that helps everybody source the best quality coffee for particular blends, or if you want to highlight and showcase a particular coffee in your roastery, you might want to get the highest quality ones. Something like this Chef coffee, which rates it at 89. So that's really our top end single origin that allows us to showcase and highlight all the fantastic things coming out of Ethiopia. Growers use it because it's their fundamental way of getting paid. Now, every farmer is responsible for their own trees, so they want to take the best care, grow the best quality cherries, and get paid the most money for their crops. So when they take it to a washing station or an export mill, they can also get paid more based on the quality score that they have achieved with their own crop. So there's an incentive for farmers to grow higher quality coffees because they obviously earn more money. And there's a better incentive for roasters to use higher quality coffee because then their customers will keep coming back because the coffee is so desirable they don't want to go to the cheap supermarket and buy their low quality beans. Have a think about this. When you've had your wine lately, have you noticed there a quality score on the wine? And if you have, then you'll understand what I'm talking about when we talk about quality score of coffee, because it's very similar. There's an undrinkable range, 50 or lower, barely drinkable, and probably you will never even get to taste it because it doesn't go out of the vineyard. And then you've got your range of your varieties of wines that go right up to the highest quality, and you obviously know that the higher the quality, the more you pay. So if you're searching for good quality coffee, make sure you find out what quality score it is, because that will determine how much you're going to enjoy it. So how do they come up with a number to define a coffee? That'll have to be a whole nother video because that'll take up a lot of time. So stay tuned, we will release a video on that. Essentially there's 10 different categories that range from the clarity, the aftertaste, the acidity, the flavor, the body, any defects. Each of them will score out of 10. Then the overall score will be adjusted to make that final score, which is how you end up with a total cupping score of 89. So when a new coffee comes in to get graded, there are people that are called Q graders who run this operation. And a Q grader is similar to that of a wine sommelier. They have to undergo extremely hard tests that only 30% of people actually pass, which is why there's only 5,000 plus in the entire world, and in Australia we have just over 100. They have to do a series of really hard blind tests and identify either how many defects are in the coffee, where the coffee has come from, the country, the origin, the region, the processing, a whole bunch of tests. And if they make more than one mistake, they are allowed one mistake, but if they make two, they fail. That's how hard it is. So obviously the people who get there have a really well-developed palate, and they can identify things in coffee that you or I probably can't identify. So they score for each section. As I said, aromas can also play a factor, flavors, all of the desirable things. And then once they get their score, they deduce numbers for impurities. And impurities taste like dirty socks. These can be things from insect damage to the beans, Quakers, full black, full sour. Each grade of coffee is only allowed a certain number of impurities. With specialty coffee being the highest, it is only allowed to have 2 full impurities per every 300 grams of coffee. So we have 2 different types of coffees here. This one is our Yirgacheffe, a really lovely, delicious Yirgacheffe coffee. This particular one is not from us, and I won't name the company that makes it. However, this is a very low quality coffee, and the reason is you can see straight off the bat that there are broken, chipped ones. They range in shapes. This one here, that's not even a bean. I don't even know what that is. It's like a husk. I mean, it is a bean, but it's been broken into pieces. There's hollow, you've got insect damage, you've got broken bits. It's overall a very poor quality, and the smells remind me of a duck pond. Over here, we've got the Yirgacheffe, which you can see they're all very much the same shape, color. There aren't broken bits, pieces everywhere. There's no damage done to the beans themselves. There haven't been insect damage. It's all really high quality. And the smell is delicious, like malty and nutty. Comparatively, you can tell straight off the bat that these are 2 very different scoring. This isn't even in the same league as this coffee. If I had to guess, I would say that this coffee is somewhere in the 60s. Now, it's important to note that the quality score isn't going to be found on coffees around 60, 70, because these Q graders really only get involved when the coffee is going to score above 80, and you want to know exactly how good it scores. So entry level is 80, 100 is the highest, although the highest that has ever been recorded is 98. And the difference you pay in price from something that's just an 80 to something that's in the 90s is astounding. A normal coffee that scores in specialty coffee will cost you around $70 a kilo, and maybe you go up from there. A 98, the highest one that I've found that's been recorded, sold for $20,000 a kilo. Green, imagine that. So that's not even roasted yet. That's how good this coffee can actually get. So if you're wondering, well, the cafe I go to or the coffee shop that I buy coffee from doesn't have a quality score, then you can say to yourself, well, perhaps they're not shouting out how good their quality is because it's not that good. If you're a small roaster and you don't have the brand name like Starbucks to stand behind, then you got to use your other skills, which is the quality score. If you're a name like Starbucks, then you don't have to worry about quality because you're already all over the world. People are already coming to you anyway, and you put that many additives, sugars, syrups in front of it to disguise the flavor. You don't have to use good quality, and you don't have to tell everyone how good it is because you can't. Really, you're hiding stuff. You're not telling the world how much you're paying, how cheap you're paying the farmers. You're not telling the world how bad the quality of the coffee is and the working conditions that some of these people are living in. You're giving a misconception that coffee should taste awful and should be cheap, when in fact, coffee can taste amazing. That's why you can drink it black and it still tastes like it has sugar in it. You don't need additives because the coffee itself is so darn good. So there you go, that's some insight into this number. Obviously, we use it wherever we can because we're all about educating customers. You might not be able to find it everywhere, but ask your local roaster what quality score their coffee is and let them educate you on how they choose their coffees and what makes it so special. But if you don't see it there, the chances are that it's not high quality coffee and you shouldn't be buying it because you're just supporting a universal misconception that coffee shouldn't taste good and it doesn't need to be expensive and you don't need to bother. Just find the cheapest thing, get your kick in the morning and move on, when that is not the only reason we drink coffee. So if you found this video entertaining and you want to see more of it, please give me a like, maybe subscribe, or leave a comment in the section below. It all helps our mission to educate the world on this fantastic beverage. I'm Ryan, your Chief Espresso Officer. Enjoy your brew.